we're gonna have a really juicy one. We've got a juicy one prepared today. We're gonna be talking about how to create killer Facebook ads campaigns for e-com clients, what it takes, the 360 approach that I preach a lot about, and overall how to just make sure that you get incredible stellar client results. Because at the end of the day, if you're signing all these clients, which we talk about, right? If you're signing all these clients but you cannot keep them for your life, right? If you cannot get them results, then it's going to be tough to scale the agency. So yeah, we're going to get straight into it. Tony's has gone ahead and prepared a fiery presentation. So yeah, let's dive into it.
Absolutely. So today, really, as Jaime alluded to, what we're really covering is the art of crafting killer campaigns, right? And that's kind of following up on last week's topic that we dove into copywriting, we dove into creatives and structures for campaigns, and this time we really wanted to make sure that we covered the whole ordeal. So today, the first real topic that we wanted to.
If you want to share your slides,
trying.
That might be easier.
Trying technical difficulties. Hold up.
If not, let's shoot it.
Can you see that?
Yes. Let me add it to stream. Okay, cool.
So yeah, as I mentioned, the art of crafting killer campaigns, and the scope that we want to really cover today includes like the specifics. So whether every brand will have a different approach, and what Jaime has to say about that, how we can have a killer offer and align it with the angle that we're using, as well as a little look at the 360 degree approach that Jaime really likes to speak about and to cover. So first things first, as we alluded to earlier, like I just wanted to get your take, Jaime, on what you'd think in terms of this, right? So like, does the brand and the product that it sells really influence the way that you look at how campaigns are structured, what you're going to do with them? Or do you have like more of a uniform approach that you apply to every brand and then you just kind of adjust it depending on its specifics?
Well, I always think about what is going to be the offer, right, that we can push. So it's more about, instead of the products influencing the campaigns, right? It's more about how does the offer influence the campaigns instead of the other way around, right? So I won't actually look at the products that they've got on their store. I will think of a way, or I will seek out an offer that we can actually push to a cold audience. Makes sense? So oftentimes, like, essentially the products don't really dictate anything, right? The first thing that I do is I basically think of what is going to be the most irresistible offer that I can push on a cold traffic, right? And sometimes it could just be the fact that it's a one product store, and a great story can be told around it. And so if that's the case, then I'll do that, right? But essentially, the first thing that I look at is, out of those products, what could be the best, what products are best suited for telling a story around it, for making it, irresistible, et cetera, right? For example, if I were to sign a cosmetic brand, right? And they had a whole array of products. They could have like skincare products, they could have lipsticks, they could have hair products, right? I would probably look for a hair growth pack that has like a specific edge, that has a specific formula to it that not a lot of competitors are using and not a lot of brands are pushing, right? Instead of like running a bunch of ads for pretty much like every single product on that store and seeing what winner comes out, you could do that. You could waste a bunch of money that way and split your budget thin. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for that offer that has the most potential to really catch an eye and that has the most benefits to it as well, right? And what will I do with the rest of the products? I'll just push it to our existing customer list, right? Maybe like very hard retargeting if they haven't bought the main offer, but that would be it, right? For those for the rest of the products, maybe I'll push it as a little gift inside the main offer, the main hair growth bundle, right? And that is all. I think a lot of e-com marketers, right? They go crazy, serving all different types of ads for all different types of products for their clients. And I did that when I started out, and that definitely wasn't the way. You go crazy writing a lot of copy. You go crazy searching for a ton of creatives. The whole ads manager is just a complete mess, and it's just a bit of a mess.
Some great tips there, and I mean, kind of relating to what you were saying there and what we touched on last time is like this notion of bundles and like the average order value like increasing, right? So in terms of linking that to like making a core offer itself and being able to advertise that, what would you really say are things that you look for? And I mean, I know it's specific for each brand, right? But like, do you look for an offer that you can get like a healthy profit margin on? Is it the flagship offer of the specific store? Is it like the highest price point? Like, what really is being used there?
There's a bunch of criteria, right? Because if it was as easy as picking the bestseller or like the flagship offer of that store, I would probably do that. And I'm not saying that's not a good criteria for making that decision, but there's a few things to it, right? That affect that decision, especially because when you go into cold ads, you may have a flagship offer, but if a lot of brands are pushing the same offer, if the creatives are just not there and maybe people are finding it organically, right? If, for example, the profit margins are not huge on that product, if it doesn't have the highest average order value, or it's not really such an impulse purchase, then that's probably not the best decision. You may ask, well, why are people then buying this product so much? Well, a lot of maybe it's a lot of word of mouth, which is a good criteria, because that's going to result in more repeat purchases and whatnot. But there's a few things, right? So obviously bestsellers is a good indicator, right? So that's 100% one of the main things that you should be looking at. The second thing should really be what is the products that have the highest reviews or the best reviews, right? And the reason really why I look at that, and by the way, this is all applied to running Facebook ads to this offer, right? It's not about deciding what the best offer is, or it's simply what is the product I'm going to push with Facebook ads. The reason why I look at reviews is because Facebook likes to, every once in a while, in a very random manner, send a survey to the people that have purchased from Facebook ads, right? And it will ask them how satisfied they are with their experience, and it will ask them things like, how was the shipping? How was the product what you expected? How happy are you with the product? And so if you get a really high score on that, right, Facebook will actually increase the score of your Facebook ad account, right? And it will serve you impressions and clicks at a better rate than your competitors. Why? Because at the end of the day, Facebook, as much as it wants to keep its advertisers happy, it wants to make its users happy, right? So if you've got raving reviews for a specific product, chances are people like this product, right? So give it to them on a call for people that have never heard of the brand, right? Third thing is the price point, right? Is it high? Does it have a high average order value, or is it an impulse buy? And what I mean by that, kind of like two things, right? So a high average order value for me means anything really above $100, right? And I will actually optimize for that, right? So if, for example, I come into a cosmetic brand, right, and they've got a billion different products, but they have like a collection for hair care, right? But they've never thought about bundling the products and creating a hair care routine, right? Maybe they've got like a hair oil, they've got a shampoo, they've got a conditioner, and they've got a pre-shower, right? What I'll do is I'll tell them, look, people love reduced complexity. Customers just love to be told, here is the one routine you can follow, right? Ditch all the others, individual skin oils that you bought from a billion different brands that all have different scents, that all have different formula. Just use this skincare routine, right? Same packaging, same scent, same texture, same feel, right? All under the same brand, so you can just buy it on one single place, right? Use it, right? Use this. And people love to be told routines, because then you can also hit them with a bunch of emails, right? That tells them how to use that tells them exactly how to use the routine. Maybe tells them best practices on these routines, etc., right? And so I'll do that, right? I'll actually go ahead and I'll actually go ahead and create those for them, so that the average order value, we can get it up to $100, right, or above. And what that will do in turn is it will allow us to have a higher ROAS on cold traffic, right, and make better returns on cold traffic, and make the whole advertising strategy just much more profitable, right, and much more sustainable. And that little hack, that little tip, I feel is so completely just disregarded by most agency owners, simply because they think they need to be super strict and super and they're not agile at all when it comes to when they come into a client's ecosystem. They're like, oh, these are their products, we cannot do anything about it. And so oftentimes you can play around with the way you bundle products together, the way you create offers, right? Routines, little gifts, for example. You could, or maybe even sometimes what I've done is I've taken a one product store, right, that is maybe selling, I don't know, a pull-up bar, right? There's not an example, of a client that I've had, but an example, right? Maybe selling a pull-up bar, and the pull-up bar, they're selling it for $80, right? Well, you could actually create a little ebook or a little free, 3-5 hour course, right? Sell it for $17, right? And then, or however much you want, right? And then just go over that $100 mark, right? So there's so many ways that you can play around with this to make sure that average value gets increased. On the flip side, we've got impulse buys, right? So these are less than $50 for sure, more like $20-$25, right? These are little gadgets, gimmicks, and things that are like eye-catching, the typical dropshipping products, right? The fidget spinners and all those type of things, those would be considered impulse purchases, right? Those are not really the type of e-com brands that we sign as e-com agencies, right? But it's another example. So that's kind of the third criteria, and maybe I'll say a final one. The final one will be, are there creatives, and or is there content around this, right? Because oftentimes, again, they might have a bestseller, but maybe that bestseller has crappy content, and most of the traffic, they're just getting it organically, word of mouth, and people that go on that landing page, maybe they are fine looking at some product pages, some product pictures, right? But I'm telling you, cold traffic who doesn't have that word of mouth, who doesn't have essentially that warm up to that product, they're not going to be fine just looking at product pictures, right? They're going to need a bit more than that. And so if they don't have creatives for that product, chances are I'm probably not going to pick it, unless I can do some sort of like thing with promo.com where I can create some like high engaging creatives. I'm not gonna even come close to that product, because I need solid creatives for my ad. So those are a few criteria that I personally use.
No, and those are some great tips. But let's just put this scenario then. You're coming in with your agency into a brand, and they've kind of done things their own way for a long time, and they kind of know what they want to be doing. And you come in telling them, okay, make this bundle, which is like much higher price point than you normally have, or like challenging them in certain ways. How have you seen like brands generally react to that almost challenge? And like, do you have any tips as to how you'd go ahead doing that yourself?
That's a very good question. Now, what I've personally found, it depends, right? And so what I mean by this, it depends on the size of the company. So like I talk about in the mentorship, different sizes of companies, that determines who we reach out to in that company, and essentially determines our offer, right? That we hit them with, in a cold environment, right? So given that you are working with a marketing department, they will like to have more of a say on that, simply because part of it is ego, right? I think part of it is ego. Part of it is them wanting to obviously take credit for that, because at the end of the day, those are the people that report to the CEO, and that's completely fine. Like I don't get into those ego plays. Like at the end of the day, I'm just there to make the money and make myself and my team money, right? And be able to grow the business in a sustainable fashion, and actually build cool shit, right? But essentially, oftentimes, like the marketing department, what I've seen is they're pretty open to it as long as it makes sense, right? In a way. So as long as it's going to make money, then they're pretty open to it. So I've seen that, if you present a good idea that has logic behind it, then they're probably going to go for it, right? Obviously, they're probably going to go for a test of that, right? Of that idea. Now, if you present them a good idea poorly, right, they're probably not going to go for it. So, obviously, presenting the reasons why you're doing what you're doing, right? Maybe a few case studies of this haven't worked in the past. That definitely helps a lot, right? And they're going to give you the ability to test, right, and see how that performs. When it comes to working with founders, right? So smaller companies are working pretty tightly with the CEO founder. I found that they come to understand that you have been brought on for a reason, right? And that they want to delegate that sort of like cold acquisition to you, right? So cold acquisition means also picking the offer that you're putting in front of this cold audience. And so I found that they have a bit more leeway. They kind of like to they're a bit more laid back when it comes to selecting that, and obviously sometimes it can be the opposite because they can be quite emotionally attached to their baby. But I found that most clients, if you present it in a proper way, they are willing to give you a run for their money.
Great tips there. And I mean, in the end of the day, every client's going to have their own approach, right? But I think what I got out of what you said is really like being able to show the value of what you're saying and knowing the fact that even if you're saying something well and you're not presenting it in a good way, like they're not going to end up going for that in the end.
Yeah. I actually, just to give people a bit of an example, a few weeks ago, right, I wanted to present this video sales letter masterclass idea to this big cosmetic brand, right, in the US. And what I did is I like made a whole presentation on it. I explained how it would look. I even created a few of the landing pages, right, like the structure, right, the overall wireframes and in Figma, so that they would get a bit of an idea as to how it would look. And that really helped them, right, seeing that I'd put in a bunch of work already. I think people in general, right, but also like founders, business owners, marketing, like pretty much everyone, right? It's annoying when someone comes, unless it's a great idea and people are just blown out of the water, but if they've never heard of this idea or this thing being done before, if you don't come with your homework done and you just expect them to believe in your idea, I think it's a bit preposterous. Like if I'd come to them and told them like, hey, let's just do this, right, and I come in as an online wizard or like genius, right, without having done my homework, putting together a visual presentation of what it would look like, maybe some of the angles that we'll test, some of the titles of this video sales letter, the general structure, right, give them a bit of an overview, right, as to what they could actually get from it. They would have probably like told me, no, that's not a good idea. Let's just stick to what we're doing, right? So yeah, it's definitely doing your homework and really showing that you care about your idea. Because why would people care about your idea if you yourself don't care about it enough to prepare for it?
I mean, that sounds like it was a crazy offer as well to them. And I'm sure, like, based off of that, we could even do a whole other episode on reaching out to prospects, like outbound, and especially like dream clients specifically. But to continue with this one and go towards the wrap up, one of the things that we wanted to touch on as well was how you can actually get these core offers and actually find an angle that fits the offer. Right. And what I really mean by this is like, are you taking the offer itself and then trying out different angles, or are you thinking of different angles based on the brand itself and then seeing the offers that can hit it? Like what approach do you really take with that?
So the way I personally do it is first I pick the offer, right, and then I'll think of the angles. And the process of finding those angles may be a lot of the angles that the brand is already pushing, a lot of the messaging that is already pushing, but it may just also be very specific to that one product, because every single product, and oftentimes is, right, every single product should be, every single core offer that you're pushing cold traffic to should be treated different. So I'm gonna share my screen. Let me see if I can do this. Window. Oh God, this is gonna be okay. Cool. So can is this?
Yep.
Can you see this? Like it's a whiteboard, right? Okay, cool. Because I cannot see myself. So the way I think about angles is the main thing that I'm gonna go ahead and do, and I'm probably gonna go in a bit of a rant, right? But the way I'm gonna structure, so we have Facebook campaigns, then we have ad sets, and this is gonna be probably a bit more, specific. But anyways, the main thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead once I've got my core offer. So going back to the example that we talked about early in the pod, right? Going back to that example, I came in, I signed this cosmetic brand. They have a billion different products, right? That's all cool. I need to pick one single core offer, max two, but really when you're starting, one single core offer that I can push to a cold audience that is going to be irresistible, that's going to have some of the components and elements of a winning core offer that we spoke about just a few minutes ago, right? So does it have a high average order value, all this stuff, right? So I bundled 4 products, 4 hair care products, like I told Antonio, and that came out to be, let's just make it easy, $150, right? Great. This is a great core offer, all right? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I need to think of the angles, right? So what are the angles that I'm going to use? And what I typically like to go for is at the start, 2 to 3 angles max, right? If I've got more than 2K to play with, which in my case at this point I do, I'll go for 3 angles, okay? So I'll go for 3 angles typically, right? Now, when I think of the angles, basically I think of my customer avatar who's going to buy this product, and I think of basically the main reasons why they would buy it, right? A lot of people think that you've got, that you should be speaking to a million different customer avatars, and based on that, you should like have different interest targeting. Like, what about the people, what about students, right? What about the students that, have hair, that are, I don't know, their hair is I don't know, is falling, or what about, 50-year-old men, or what about like all these different customers avatars, and at the end of the day, you have to, pick really one, focus on one person, right? And that they may have different demographics, they may have different like interest targetings and all that stuff, but essentially you're speaking to one single person and you're trying to hit them with a bunch of different pain points, right? So for example, one of the angles, and again, I'm thinking on my toes here, so bear with me, guys, but angle one could be hair loss, right? I mean, that's an easy angle, right? So you could grab them with a really good hook, and I'm probably going to butcher this hook, but something like I don't know. Maybe you could think of a case where you realize that you're losing hair. Maybe I don't know. You brush yourself with you like comb your hair, and then you find that there's like a lot of hair on your comb, and then you finally realize that you're losing hair, and you're still pretty young, right? And you hit them with an angle that's going to resonate, right? Another angle could be the comparison angle, right? So why do some hair have just incredible, like soft, like use a bunch of better adjectives, but why do some men have visible hair while other men struggle to keep their hair on past 30 years old, right? And then go into like a long form copy. And the third angle could be like specifically about something that this bundle, it's some way that this bundle is different, right? So this ain't like some, I don't know, the ancient formula that is I don't know, rejuvenating XYZ, that I don't know, like monks used 1,067 years ago, right? Something like that, right? But essentially those would be my kind of how I would structure, right? I would structure the campaigns, and then for every single campaign, I'd have one of these angles, and I would pretty much have at the campaign level, right? I would pretty much have the same audience targeting for each angle, right? So for angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3, I would pretty much have the same audiences, and those would become my ad sets. So I mean, that's a brief. That's kind of like how I structure that, right? So I look at that specific offer, and then I come up with a bunch of angles. I know I butchered those angles, but essentially you get a bit of an idea as to the fact that these are different angles. These are different ways of looking at the problem and different ways of hooking people in, right? One was with, do you ever feel like, which tends to work really well. Another one is comparison, which is kind of like lower frequency, but it tends to work really well, right? Because people, especially on social media, they're constantly comparing themselves. So boom, you've got them, right? You hook them there. And then the third one is curiosity. So, right. So what is the ancient formula? What is, these ingredients that this guy's talking about, on why are they useful at all, right? So that's kind of how I typically go about it.
Great stuff. And I mean, the live walkthrough was awesome, and the ancient formula is a theme from last week as well. So I'm sure you guys are learning what ancient monks and all the East African tribes have been up to.
Yeah.
But
these titles on the spot are tough, man.
I can imagine.
I'm the type of person when it comes to copy that I need to like really sit down and be in the zone. So yeah.
Or else you'll just hit them with 1,267-year-old tribes.
Yeah.
But no, the last point we really wanted to touch on, which I think is really valuable and that you go on quite a bit in your mentorship, is this approach of like, okay, we're delivering the service for the clients, and our main service is whatever it is, right? Like paid ads, email advertising, like whatever different social media you're using. But there's also the 360 approach, right? And you touched there on the landing pages you've done for clients, like even looking at the bundles and just being like an e-commerce growth hacker as a whole. Is there some things you want to like touch on, like share in regards to that specifically, like this 360 approach and how you can't just be like a regular Facebook ads agency?
Yeah, I definitely do, Tony. And I think that's a really good leeway into our next episode, which is going to be all about the 360 approach. And we're going to, obviously today was mainly focus around the advertising side of things. Obviously, we could go for hours and hours on end, which I do in the mentorship, but yeah, I think that's a good introduction. Obviously, there's there's quite a few other components of the 360 approach, which we're going to be discussing in the next talk show. If you guys enjoyed this, drop a massive thumbs up. And if you want to get more episodes like this, that definitely helps, because it is a big investment of our time. And that's pretty much it, Tony. I appreciate you. The final thing I would say as well is, if you are interested, and I always mention this, well, I rarely do actually, but I'm going to start doing so because I don't get to my DMs fast enough. So if you are interested in the mentorship, I will leave a link in the description of this video where you can go ahead and book yourself in and then speak to my team, which includes Tony here and myself, and we can see if you'd be a good fit for it. So if you're looking to scale your e-com agency well past the 10K month mark, definitely no better place to be. And apart from that, we appreciate you. Thank you for being part of this community. If you're new, welcome, and we'll see you on the next one.